Trump entered Stephen Colbert's show expecting to take control, but Colbert opened with a direct statement. There are reports suggesting Ivanka secretly gave birth to Barron. There are even photos of you, Ivanka, and a newborn that fit that timeline. What followed left the studio stunned. It was an evening no one anticipated. New York City lights glimmered as the Late Show with Stephen Colbert ready for another night of interviews and jokes. The audience arrived expecting the usual mix of satire, celebrity guests, and sharp commentary. But that night carried a different energy. There was a quiet tension in the room, noticeable even to longtime attendees. No one expected Donald Trump to appear. Not now and not here. Trump, the sitting U.S. president in 2025, remained a constant headline. His presence on a late-night talk show was unusual, and the moment he entered, the atmosphere shifted. Cameras clicked as he approached the stage. The audience reacted with scattered whispers and surprised murmurs. Even Stephen Colbert, known for his self-control, appeared briefly caught off guard. A quick look in his eyes suggested, "This won't be an ordinary interview." Trump had a purpose for being there, and it was more significant than a routine media appearance. In recent weeks, rumors had spread quickly. Loud, surprising, and impossible to ignore. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, along with several prominent figures, including Barack Obama, had made claims that sparked national conversation. They suggested something extraordinary and hard to believe. That Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter, was allegedly Barron Trump's biological mother. This claim was dramatic enough to ignite debate across the country. And Trump wasn't on Colbert's show by coincidence. He came to directly address the allegations, to take control of the narrative, and to respond in front of millions without intermediaries. But even before he spoke, it was clear the moment wouldn't be simple. Trump's reputation for boldness and direct confrontation was well known. But Colbert's approach was different. His strength was subtle delivery. His impact came not from volume, but from precise timing and calm clarity. That skill mattered greatly that night. As Trump sat down, he appeared confident. His usual energy and presence filled the studio. Cameras followed him as he adjusted his suit and acknowledged the audience who were still processing his arrival. He seemed prepared to clarify his stance and direct the conversation. Yet, from the beginning, tension lingered. Trump had stepped into a space where the tone was different, where humor and composed questioning could be more effective than forceful statements. People in the audience could sense that something meaningful was developing. Conversations became sharper, and viewers quietly wondered how the exchange would unfold. Would Trump dominate as he often did in interviews, or would Colbert control the pace with his measured tone and humor? For Trump, the appearance was intentional. By choosing a late-night platform, he could respond to rumors directly and attempt to stop them from gaining further momentum. But Colbert was not a passive host. He was not likely to be intimidated or discouraged. His record showed he could respond with intelligence and steadiness regardless of the guest. That made the expected outcome of Trump's usual media strategy uncertain. When the show started, the atmosphere felt heavy with anticipation. The audience leaned forward, aware that this wasn't just another interview. Trump's arrival, combined with the circulating allegations, made the moment feel significant. Every word held potential influence. Even before the topic came up, the interaction felt historic. It was unusual to see a president willingly address personal rumors in real time before a national audience. The audience wasn't simply searching for entertainment. They were anticipating a direct interaction between two very different public personas. One assertive and confrontational, the other calm and calculated. As Trump settled in, the stage was set for a discussion that would be more than routine conversation. Confidence, controversy, and composure were all present. Trump appearing on The Late Show was more than a surprise. It signaled that something of importance was unfolding. It was a moment likely to be referenced long after the episode ended. As filming began, Trump spoke immediately. Leaning forward with a confident expression, he opened with a comment designed to seize attention. He made it clear he wouldn't take a passive role. "Stephen," he said with a slight smirk, "you've got a nice show. People tell me all the time, but honestly, it wouldn't get the same attention without me. My name boosts your ratings. Everyone knows it." The audience reacted with mixed laughter. Some amused, some unsure. Trump's opening blended humor and confidence, sounding like part boast and part jab. He was trying to establish control early. Colbert remained composed. He smiled slightly but didn't interrupt or rush to respond. His calm tone or lack of immediate reaction carried its own weight. It made Trump's attempt to dominate feel more like performance than assertion. Trump leaned back, clearly satisfied with the spotlight. He still wasn't finished. He wanted to push further to reinforce his point and re-establish control of the discussion. "You talk about honesty," he said, his voice sharp. "But your show, it's full of stories that just aren't accurate. People spread rumors about me and my family, and you allow it. You know it. Everyone knows it." In that moment, the room sensed a shift. What began as casual teasing and light self-promotion started to develop a defensive tone. Trump was no longer just joking. He was trying to protect his image and question his host's credibility at the same time. It was bold, confrontational, and very much in line with Trump's public persona. Colbert did not react with visible frustration. He didn't argue or mirror Trump's intensity. He let the comments pass, allowing the room to process the rising tension. That patience made the atmosphere feel heavier. The audience noticed immediately. A quiet question seemed to form in the space between them. How would Colbert answer? Trump sensed a pause and continued. He adjusted his posture, leaning forward with his hands moving for emphasis. His next remarks were direct, personal, and deliberate. "Stephen, you act like you're friendly, honest, and fair, but we all know that's not the full picture. Your ratings are fine, but nowhere near what people expected. People know what's really going on behind the scenes." His tone mixed criticism with confidence, as if emphasizing that he was setting the terms of the moment. He tried to mock Colbert subtly, aiming to make the host seem smaller and elevate himself in comparison. This was a familiar Trump approach: assert authority, use humor strategically, and blend confidence with exaggeration to keep the room slightly unsteady. Yet, the more he tried to take control, the more the audience began to notice the contrast between force and composure. Trump's voice was firm, his energy intense. But Colbert's calmness created its own kind of pressure. It was quiet but effective, and it began to draw attention away from Trump's claims and toward how his comments were landing. Within minutes, the dynamic was established. Trump outspoken and direct, trying to control each turn. Colbert, calm and exact, letting the president's statements stand before replying. The room felt charged, not only with humor, but with expectation. Everyone waited to see who would actually guide the tone. Trump's attempts to roast Colbert while defending himself created a complex, compelling exchange. The audience recognized that this wasn't a typical late-night segment. It was a moment where assertiveness met patience, where volume met restraint, and where each sentence held weight. The stage was no longer about entertainment alone. It had become a contest of personality, approach, and public perception. The lingering question was clear. Could Trump maintain control? Or had Colbert's quiet strategy already begun to influence the direction? After Trump's remarks subsided, his forceful points and targeted critiques filling the space, silence followed. Not the quiet before applause or laughter, but a heavier stillness, a pause with significance. The audience leaned forward, sensing that the next response mattered. This silence demanded attention, not by volume, but by presence. Colbert allowed the pause to settle. Then replied. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. "Mr. President," he said evenly, "I don't bring guests on to embarrass them, but I do believe in facts." The words were simple, but their effect was instant. Trump, who often commanded attention through energy and boldness, shifted slightly. The atmosphere adjusted again. The audience, already focused, leaned in further. Colbert's line wasn't an insult or a punchline, but it held authority. Trump paused, momentarily unsettled. He expected rapid back and forth, playful jabs, perhaps dismissive humor. Instead, Colbert slowed the conversation down, creating a situation where every reply mattered. Colbert continued with intention. "You say the rumors aren't true," he said. "But I have something you may want to examine." The tension rose immediately. The audience shifted posture, waited, anticipating. Nobody knew what he held, but the suggestion alone changed the energy. This moment worked because of restraint. No raised voice, no sarcasm, no forced reaction. Yet, every person in the room was focused on him. Trump's response revealed something subtle. He adjusted his seat, a mild frown appearing. The confidence he brought, the assertiveness he relied on, was meeting a calm that was difficult to overpower. He opened his mouth to reply, but paused. The realization surfaced. The terms of the encounter weren't the same anymore. Here, volume didn't win automatically. Timing, patience, and clarity held real influence. The audience recognized it. They understood the importance of the next few moments. Colbert had directed the conversation towards something more meaningful beyond jokes, beyond ratings. The rumors Trump came to address were serious, disputed, and deeply personal. By refusing to escalate, Colbert elevated the discussion. He made it clear that what mattered wasn't simply control of the stage, but credibility. For Trump, the challenge had become more complex and more nuanced. He wanted to dominate, to assert control, to turn the interaction into a win. But he had stepped into an environment where the standard dynamics did not apply. Colbert's calmness wasn't passive. It was intentional. Every pause, every carefully selected word served as a subtle indication that the host was steering the direction of the discussion. It showed that authority isn't always demonstrated through force or volume. It can be shown through patience, accuracy, and measured timing. Then Colbert delivered a line that altered the entire atmosphere. "I have reports," he stated, "that might surprise you. Something you should consider carefully because it connects directly to what everyone is discussing." The impact was immediate. Trump's confident posture shifted. His hands moved slightly, revealing a brief sign of discomfort. The audience, sensing something significant approaching, leaned forward attentively. There was a shared feeling of anticipation, a collective understanding that the next statement would set the tone for the remainder of the segment. Colbert continued with a steady voice, firm and composed. "You've called the claims untrue. You've rejected them, yet the information I have is specific, and it's not something that can simply be overlooked. This is a moment to clarify, to address concrete points directly here in front of the audience, paying close attention." Each word was intentional. There was no mocking, no attempt to embarrass, no unnecessary edge, only clarity, composure, and a clear objective. The contrast between Trump's energetic defense and Colbert's composed presentation was clear. The audience could sense the shift in control. The room felt charged, not with shouting or laughter, but with expectation, tension, and the recognition that something important was unfolding. At this stage, Trump attempted to regain influence. He moved to speak, to break in, to insert his energy back into the exchange. But the pauses, the precision, and the steadiness in Colbert's delivery made interruption difficult. Each attempt to redirect the moment was quietly countered by Colbert's steady presence. For the first time in their exchange, the balance of influence began to change. Colbert's deliberate approach served as a reminder of the strength found in restraint. He didn't need to argue, raise his voice, or react aggressively to gain leverage. His calmness generated tension, interest, and authority. The audience remained engaged, not through spectacle, but through the gradual shift in tone that he created. Trump's efforts to defend, challenge, and command the conversation were meeting a composed response that demanded recognition. These minutes formed the groundwork for the moment that would define the night. The calm before the response was not empty. It was built with consideration, awareness, and strategic focus. Those watching in the studio and at home could sense something coming. Something that would address more than the rumors. Something that would highlight the impact of stability and precision when addressing a high-pressure moment. So the silence remained, waited with expectation as Colbert prepared to continue. The next sentence would alter the energy of the room, quiet the back and forth, and leave an impression lasting well beyond the studio lights. The audience had gone silent. Every gaze in the space was on Colbert, waiting for the continuation. The stillness that had filled the air moments earlier was now thick with tension. Trump, known for confidence, shifted slightly in his seat. He had attempted to lead earlier with confident remarks and targeted comments. But Colbert's stable approach had slowly reduced that advantage. Then, without raising his voice or displaying frustration, Colbert leaned in and spoke. "I have reports claiming that Ivanka gave birth to Barron privately," he said, calm as before. The words were straightforward, not dramatic. Yet they landed with notable impact. The audience reacted at once. Soft gasps spread through the room as the seriousness of the statement became clear. Trump paused. For the first moment that evening, there was no immediate reply. Thoughts raced as he searched for a way to counter or disregard the allegation, but nothing was available in an instant. The usual quick remarks, the ones that had often worked before, didn't appear in the face of Colbert's composed approach. The silence following Colbert's statement communicated more than any argument could. Colbert continued, "And there are also photos," he added, "of you, Ivanka, and a newborn, which correspond with the reported timeline. The statement hit with full force. The audience's reaction moved from quiet responses to notable shock. Individuals leaned forward, uncertain whether to question, react, or process what had just been said. The mood became tense, almost electric. Trump's expression tightened. He attempted to speak, raising his voice and gesturing. "That's false. Completely false," he said louder than expected. It was an attempt to retake control, to dismiss the allegation, to regain lost ground. But Colbert did not respond sharply or defensively. There was no visible frustration, no sign of escalation. His composure remained even as the president raised his tone. Colbert's answer was calm, straightforward, and effective. "Then this is your moment to address it directly," he replied. "Because the audience should know what's true." The line wasn't designed to provoke. It redirected responsibility back to its source. For the first time, the focus wasn't on performance or personality. It shifted to clarity, accountability, and the subject being addressed. The change was immediate. Trump, who began the segment attempting to dominate, was now responding, trying to keep up. His expression tightened further as he searched for an approach. But Colbert's composure had shaped the environment in a way that made quick remarks insufficient. The conversation had evolved from casual exchange to challenge, from commentary to response. The audience recognized the importance of the moment. It was no longer just about rumors. It was about presence, control, and the lasting effect of how a statement is delivered. Colbert had shown that you don't need volume to command attention. His measured reasoning paired with the solid information he presented held the room more effectively than any loud claim or insult could. Trump tried again, his voice mixing disbelief with insistence. "There's nothing here. Nothing. It's all fabricated." He gestured as if force could prove confidence, but it only highlighted his discomfort. Colbert, still composed, allowed the audience to see the contrast. A figure normally defined by certainty now seemed unsure. A host known for calm now appeared fully in control. The moment lingered, each second increasing the weight in the room. Everyone watching realized they were witnessing something rare. In politics, media, or any high-pressure situation, it's uncommon to see someone so assertive pause with hesitation. Trump had entered expecting to lead the exchange, to counter and defend himself with momentum and intensity. Instead, he found himself responding to steady logic and straightforward statements. Unable to reclaim the discussion, Colbert moved forward without raising his voice, letting timing, silence, and reactions carry the impact. The audience focused on every look, every pause, every shift in tone. Trump's attempts at energy and pushback clashed against Colbert's deliberate control. It became a lesson in communication as much as a public exchange. Power did not appear in force alone. It existed in timing, balance, and clarity. By the time Colbert paused, the entire atmosphere had shifted. The confidence Trump entered with was now met by scrutiny and quiet anticipation. The moment had clearly changed the center of authority. Viewers expecting a humorous interview now saw something far more revealing. They saw the effectiveness of calm under pressure, the strength of precision over volume. For Trump, the effect was obvious. He came prepared to counter, critique, and lead. Instead, he reacted, defending himself in a space where emotional control outweighed intensity. The moment wasn't dramatic or noisy, but it held weight. It created an impression that wouldn't fade easily. As the room held its focus, the message was unmistakable. Colbert demonstrated that calm, clarity, and timing could balance even the most forceful attempts to lead a conversation. The audience recognized it. Trump sensed it, and the atmosphere confirmed it. This was a turning point, one that would stay in mind long after filming ended. By the time the cameras finally shut off, the studio felt different. What began as a late-night segment with humor, casual remarks, and confident banter had become a serious moment that made everyone think. Trump had arrived planning to guide the exchange, to respond boldly, and to stop speculation. Instead, events unfolded in a way few anticipated. His responses throughout showed a version of him rarely seen on television. He is typically quick with replies, skilled in redirecting conversations, and known for staying composed. But when Colbert calmly presented documents and images, Trump struggled for footing. His usual confidence appeared to slip, replaced by hesitation. For the viewers, this was the most striking part. It wasn't loud or theatrical. It was quiet, but significant, a moment showing the limits of force when met with composure. Colbert never raised his voice, never attacked Trump personally, and never tried to embarrass him. There was no need. Each word and each moment of silence gradually shifted the room. Those watching could sense the difference between aggression and controlled authority. When the segment ended, it was clear the host had gained the advantage without confrontation. His strength came from patience, transparency, and the careful use of facts. Meanwhile, Trump's attempt to undermine Colbert and appear dominant did not land as intended. His usual energetic approach, which often captures attention, now appeared less effective and more performative. The contrast created by Colbert's calm presence shifted the power dynamic. The president, known for confidence, faced a rare moment where restraint outweighed volume, and clarity outweighed force. After the show, conversations weren't about jokes or one-liners. They focused on the moment itself, the subtle power of reasoning, the two different communication styles, and the change in authority that occurred. The rumors Trump addressed were no longer the central topic. Instead, people discussed how the interaction unfolded and what it suggested about both individuals. It became a lesson in strategy. Trump's approach was direct, energetic, and confrontational. Colbert was steady, intentional, and calm. In this contrast, audiences saw a truth beyond politics or entertainment. Confidence alone isn't always enough. Tone, timing, and restraint can have more influence than intensity. Still, questions remained. Did Trump manage to support his image, or did the interview create additional doubt? He came to control the narrative, decline rumors, and show authority. But when the discussion developed on its own, the outcome shifted. Instead of ending speculation, the appearance drew more attention. People continued debating, questioning, and sharing reactions. The attempt to lead the exchange unintentionally spotlighted the very issue he tried to settle. For the audience, the takeaway was clear. They saw something unexpected, where careful statements and composed delivery carried more impact than volume or pressure. The contrast between Trump's assertiveness and Colbert's intentional replies created a dynamic that was informative and surprising. It highlighted that influence isn't tied to intensity. Sometimes it comes from a pause, a clear sentence, or a measured question. The aftermath extended beyond the two men. It became about perception. How viewers now interpreted the claims, the host's conduct, and Trump's approach. Colbert had guided the narrative without aggression, showing that authority can be demonstrated quietly. Trump, on the other hand, showed that even confident leaders can encounter situations where control is tested, and where determination alone cannot dictate the result. By the time people reflected on the episode, one thing was evident. The night wasn't just entertainment. It became an example of communication, strategy, and reaction under pressure. It showed the strength of composure, the effect of timing, and the importance of intent. It showed that attention-grabbing energy doesn't always equal success against thoughtful replies. As the screens faded and the lights lowered, one question remained. Did Trump truly help his case, or did the attempt to confront and redirect only highlight the issue further? The answer wasn't simple. But what remained undeniable was the effect of Colbert's measured authority in a situation that could have become chaotic. He showed that control can come from restraint. What do you think about Colbert's approach? Was he too firm, or was he simply doing his job? Share your opinion below. This is a discussion that won't end quickly.